Okay, welcome back to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're focusing on just one source. It's a recent article from the Washington Post.
That's right. The title is Trump Seeks End to Immigrant Legal Protections.
And our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's pretty specific.
Very focused. We're going only into this article.
Exactly. Just extracting what the Post reports, the key ideas, the potential implications discussed in this piece.
Yeah, no outside information, no taking sides on the politics mentioned, purely about understanding what this specific source is saying.
So let's set the stage. According to this report, what's the main thrust?
Well, it really centers on reported efforts, discussions about changing or maybe even ending certain legal protections that immigrants currently have.
Okay. And the article seems to get into the specifics of which protections.
It does. It's not just vague. The Post talks about specific categories. For example, protections that currently shield certain groups from deportation.
Groups who've been here a while, maybe?
Exactly. People who've lived in the U.S. for a long time, even if, their original entry wasn't through the formal process, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And also, it mentions potential changes impacting people who have temporary status because of conditions back in their home countries. That's according to the Post's reporting.
Right. So established categories. Now, this is where it gets interesting, based on what the Post says.
Uh,
How? How does the article report these changes might actually happen? What's the mechanism?
yeah, that's a key part of the report. It suggests the plans being discussed rely heavily on executive authority.
Meaning not necessarily going through Congress.
Right. The article points towards using administrative tools, regulatory changes, maybe dismantling existing rules or finding ways around certain procedures.
Okay.
So the implication in the report is, it seems, a focus on using the power of the executive branch rather than meeting new laws for every single step.
That sounds like it could, potentially, allow things to move more quickly or affect broader groups. Does the article give a sense of the scale involved in these reported plans?
It does touch on scale, yeah. The Post characterizes these reported efforts as potentially affecting, well, hundreds of thousands of people,
Hundreds of thousands, wow.
possibly even millions, depending on how you count the groups involved. The report seems to link these potential changes across various existing statuses, suggesting the scope is meant to be pretty wide-ranging.
Across different immigrant populations who currently have these protections.
That's what the Post's analysis seems to suggest, yes.
Okay, so let's just recap what we've pulled purely from this one Washington Post article. It details reported efforts looking at specific types of immigrant legal protections.
Check.
It outlines potential ways these could be implemented, focusing heavily on executive and administrative actions, according to the report.
Yes, that's in there.
And it suggests the potential scale could be really quite large, impacting potentially huge numbers of people.
That sums up the core points presented in this source, yes. Our focus here was strictly limited to understanding what this one article reported.
Absolutely. And sticking just to the info in this report, it does leave you with something to think about. Considering the potential scope of protections reportedly being discussed and the administrative ways the article says they might be targeted, what could that mean for the whole legal landscape for immigrant statuses? If the efforts described in this specific article actually move forward.
It's certainly a question raised by the contents of this particular report, something to mull over.
Definitely something to consider based on this source. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into that Washington Post article.